Purple Magpie here, and look at me finally making the brush lettering video. I know, I promised that I will do it a long time ago, but just many things were happening and are happening, and I wanted to actually split it into two videos. Today I will talk about materials that you need to use or you could use, but generally like the materials required to do brush lettering. And in next video I will talk about actual writing and how to learn the alphabet. And also want to say thank you to Europa Express for suggesting this kind of video. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the idea. Without further ado, let's get to business. So first off, we need paper. And you really, generally for calligraphy, you really want the paper to be as smooth as possible. Really, rough paper just absorbs the ink more and creates those stains that, unless you actually want them to be part of your art piece or whatever you're making, then you really want to avoid them. So you really need a smooth paper, and two brands that I know and I can recommend are Rhodia notebooks and Oxford notebooks. Now, Oxford notebooks are a bit cheaper, or at least that's what I know of, that they are cheaper. And I know this notebook is really worn out, but it's just my stories notebook, and I've been, I was carrying it around my entire middle school, so but it just has such smooth paper. Like, I love it. It's just, and when you're a fountain pen user, it just like those notebooks with smooth paper, it's just gorgeous. And both of these notebooks are spiral notebooks, but I just generally prefer spiral notebooks. One, because you can just write with them anywhere you want, and two, they just, you don't have to flatten it out like other notebooks, like those bound notebooks or glued notebooks. They are just always flat, and I love it. You don't necessarily need squared notebook or a line notebook or dotted notebook or anything like that. You can do it with whatever notebook you have, if it has like a smooth paper. If it has a smooth paper, so now that you have surface to write on, now you need something to write with, right? What I started with, I started my brush lettering adventure, right, with the Pentel brush pen. I honestly struggled at the beginning because it's just, I will explain to you in a second. I will show you how each and every of this pens write. I will show you why I switched to Tombow Joe brush pen and why I just generally don't think that it's a good brush pen for beginners, but this is the one that I started my adventure with. So the second one was the Tombow Joe brush pen, and I just have a ton of them right now, but not all of them. I mean, I would love to, but yeah, I switched to those because they were just so much easier to use. I generally just wanted to try them out, and when I actually bought one for myself, which was a purple one, which was my first Tombow Joe brush pen ever, and I didn't really think that I will, but I fell in love with them. I really did. I fell in love with them. I bought my Tombow Joe brush pen, and I bought the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, except in black. Now they have them in colors. If you want to see my review of those colored versions of Tombow Fudenosuke brush pens, you can check them out on my channel. I think that my other brush pens that I bought were the Ecoline brush pens. I only have two, actually. I have only a gray and this one, but I love them. They have a softer brush than Tombow Joe brush pens, so they're also a bit harder for beginners, but when you get used to it a bit, it's really great, and they have such amazing colors too. They make these like variations of shades of color So I absolutely love them. Tombos don't do that as much. The next ones that I bought were the Crayola Super Tips. Yeah, I actually bought a pack of 50 of them, and honestly, they're way cheaper than Tombos. And they're just cheaper generally than all of those others. Um, because these are specifically made for brush lettering. So they are made with the intention of being calligraphy tool. Crayola Super Tips are not meant for that, really. They are meant to be just markers. But thanks to the pointy tip that they have, we are able to perform brush lettering with them. And I will show you in a second how you can do that. However, again, I don't recommend them for beginners. And then finally, there is a Kuretake brush pen, which is like this kind of metallics collection of brush pens. I have like typical metallics, which is, silver, copper, and gold, but they have like purple, blue, and green and all that. So, like I said, these brush pens are specifically made for brush lettering. You can brush letter with Crayola Super Tips. They're really great. I really like them. So I will show you a comparison of all of these tools that you can use for brush lettering. So let's get the notebook. All right, so we have the page. I have already opened my brush pens, so let's get to it. I will start with the Tombow Duo Brush Pen because I want to show you why I think they're just great, that these tools are really great. I'm not teaching you anything like how to write, just generally sit back and relax. I'm not teaching you anything today how to write. I'm telling you why I think Tombow Duo Brush Pens are best for beginners, but also what can you use when you get better at it. There are these practices that you can do in order to learn brush lettering, and this is one of the doodling like things that you can do in order to practice brush lettering. So I like you can hear every time I push, you can hear this like kind of squeaking or something off the brush. So the brush it's not hair, it is sponge essentially that absorbed the ink. So it's harder. So this brush is actually harder than other brush pens that I will show you, except for Crayola Super Tip. But like I said, it's not really meant to be a brush lettering tool. But this really has the hardest tips of all these tools because the softer the brush, it's harder to draw. It's way easier for beginners, especially to just understand the basic idea, because I can already tell you that in order to do brush lettering, like, you first need to understand that the beauty of calligraphy is just the understanding that when you go up, you go as thin as possible, and when you go down, you go as thick as possible. That's just the idea, basic idea of calligraphy. Generally, I hope you like get the idea. They are harder, so it's better, it's easier to understand the idea. And when you understand the idea, you kind of build, like, your muscle memory is formed, and then you do it kind of automatically. That when you go up, you go thin, you go down, you go thick, then you can play. But it's like with generally everything, you just have to, when you're starting, then you have to understand the idea first. Don't go crazy with all of the like styles and all of the variety. Just do basic, go basic, and then you can start. When you are perfect at it, then you can start actually making some improvements and or some variety or anything like that. But just when you're starting, go basic, really. It's really important. Okay, so we tried Tombow Duo brush pen, and at the end, they're Tombow Duo brush pens because at the end there is like this thin marker type end, but it's not really important when it comes to brush lettering, so we will not talk about that. Now I will show you why I don't think that Pentel brush pen is good for beginners. So this is the Pentel brush pen. It's just it. Now these are hair. This is not a sponge. These are real hair. These are silicone hair, I think, but still synthetic hair. Sorry. They are synthetic hair, but still hair. So again, you know, upstrokes. You can already see. I have it written with this tool for a long time, but it's just and I'm not pushing hard, really. I'm not pushing hard. I'm gonna draw a oh my goodness. Okay, it's so hard. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you can see how far worse it is, and I'm not a beginner, and how difficult it is for me. So just generally, I hope you get the idea that you just it's really way harder. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's really way harder to do it with a soft brush. I and it's just when you're a beginner, you really every time you make a mistake or it's not as perfect as the work of people that you're looking at, you're looking up to, it's just so frustrating. Oh my goodness, it is just so frustrating. And when it doesn't work, you just start to lose your motivation, and motivation and discipline is what makes you keep practicing, right? It's what keeps you practicing. When you discourage yourself by using a wrong tool, then you just you will surely not succeed. So if I stayed with the Pentel brush pen, maybe it could have eventually worked, but it really wasn't that good. But so yeah, so it's really great that I actually switched to Tombow Duo brush pen. It's just so much easier with this one than with this one. It's just, I will show you. So this is my A with Tombow Duo brush pen, and this is my E with Tombow Duo brush pen. So, and just look at how amazing this looks and how awful this looks. So really, and I'm not a beginner, like I said, so just imagine how harder it was for me when I was beginning, right? Now the other brush pen that I love, it's easier than with Pentel, but it's still, these are also not hair, it's also a sponge, but this is the Ecoline brush pen, and it's color 422 if you're interested. And this one is softer. You can see that it makes a thinner line, so it's just generally, you can already see that this, like I said, that this Ecoline brush pen really does more of the kind of gradient kind of look, and it gives you a thicker line. That is true, so you can make bigger letters. Actually, I love using my Ecolines for bigger calligraphy, for bigger brush lettering, but I just really love them. So you get a bigger variation a greater variation of thick line and thin line, but I really recommend them. So they're not for total beginners, but they're like kind of like a number two, you know. Yeah, with the Tombow brush pens, they get to kind of the same like categories. For some people, smaller Tombow brush pens are better, and for some it's harder. I also recommend the hard tip because they have hard tip and soft tip, so just make sure you get the right one. This just allows you to write more detailed, or smaller, make smaller calligraphy, but generally the idea is the same. Some people prefer the bigger Tombows, some people prefer the smaller. I was kind of like between. I liked both of them the same. They are also pretty much for beginners, so you can choose. So generally Tombows, the big ones or the small ones, you can choose. Then we get to the final brush pen that is made for brush lettering. It's also a sponge with ink, and it's the metallic Kuretake one. They are harder to make the thin line, or maybe it's just used because I used it quite a lot. But they're really great. They're not the easiest. Again, they have quite hard tip, so they're fine. Maybe, you know what, maybe even actually the Kuretake are better for beginners even than Ecoline. So maybe like Tombows, then Kuretake, then Ecoline, and Pentel is just like it really is difficult to work with. And then finally we get to the Crayola Super Tips. The Crayola Super Tips, which are the cheapest option, but they're not really originally meant for brush lettering. Sorry, just as you can see, you can do the same thing. They can do thin line and thick line and thin line and thick line and thin line and thick line, and you can do the letters with no problem. So it's just really so they're great for practicing. So I recommend them for people that do begin, for people that are pros, but maybe I wouldn't recommend it for people who just really begin. You really should get the meant to be brush pens, like brush pens meant for brush lettering. So Tombows, I really recommend them. I'm not sponsored, I promise, but I just really recommend them. They're really good. They're the harder to tip, the better. The Crayolas are great because you get a whole variety of colors, but you should not get hung up on the colors at the beginning. You really should stick with the basics. So like choose one color or black or whatever, but just choose one color and practice with it and try it and be consistent. Because if you just pay a large amount of money for pens and you will not really succeed, and you will, because at the beginning you will not succeed, you will have to learn, right? So then you will get really frustrated because you will feel like you just wasted your money. So yeah, so I'm really glad that I didn't do this. I went kind of one by one. Like I said, Tombows, the small ones, the big ones, same level. Then the Crayola Super Tips, then Kuretake Metallics, then Ecoline, then Pentel, which Pentel is really, 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 really hard. And now finally, I also wanted to show you that you can use some other tools or some other materials to have some variety when you already practice. Like I said, you know, you need to practice hard at the beginning, and then when you feel you're kind of comfortable with brush lettering, then you can do some variety. You can do something to make it fun again, because you know, just every passion or every hobby is just all fascinating at the beginning. Then you get kind of worn out, or you get kind of bored because you just do it all the time. You do the same things, you do the same doodles, you do the same letters. So you should kind of make it fun again at some point if you feel like you're bored, but you feel comfortable with writing. So I recommend, for example, taking out some inks if you have some, if you do calligraphy, if you maybe have an ink, or you have like an Ecoline, which is like a watered down watercolor paint. Then you can actually take your Tombows, which, yeah, I have my purple Tombow dual brush pen, and I just dip my pen in the ink, just the tip. I try to get it in, and then you can have some variety. Look, it's a purple pen. See, this was a purple pen. I can actually try to write it out, but you can just see how the colors change, how it went from pink, because the ink is pink, mixed with the purple ink from the brush pen, and as I'm writing with it, it kind of gives that gradient look, which is just so amazing. So if you will follow my guidelines and you'll practice first, I will show you in my next video how to start writing the letters and the alphabet, and first the doodles, to actually try to get the idea of, you know, go up, go thin, go down, go thick. So when you will practice it, and when you will finally feel kind of comfortable with writing your letters, and you will surely because you will surely get bored at some point, then really try the blending trick. Hope you liked the video. If you did, click the thumbs up, and if you want to check out some of my other content, then check out my channel, which is Purple Magpie. And if you want to be notified when I put up some other videos, like for example the other calligraphy one, then click that subscribe button. See you guys later. Bye.